6 plus 5v plus 6v squared. Okay? So first thing we're going to do is get all of the terms on one side, standard form. Whether we're doing quadratic formula or just solving by factoring, we want to do that. So I'm going to subtract the 6v squared this way. And 5v subtract. And the 6. Subtract as well. So I zero out the right side. I get 5v squared minus 32v plus 12. Okay. All right, so the trick now is we want to break this up into factors. You know, binomial times a binomial. And then we could solve those factors for 0 individually. It gets really simple after we've got it factored. But to get the factors when we've got a number on the front is a little tricky sometimes. So I want to detail that process here. Okay. What we need to do in order to figure out what the factorization looks like is a process called the AC method and factor by grouping. The AC method is simply taking the A term times the C term. So here's my A term, 5, times my C term, 12. We get 60. Does this look familiar? Now we look for factors of 60. I usually use a table here. A little multiplication dot makes me think of factors of 60 that add up to the B term. So we're going to try and split this middle term here. So what multiplies to 60 but adds up to negative 32? Well, 60's got a lot of factors. Anybody know this one? Yeah, Colton.
32.
Yeah, so if I use negative 30 times negative 2, I'll get 60. And if I add them, I'll get negative 32, which is pretty cool. So that's the set of numbers, negative 30 and negative 2. And I'm going to draw some arrows here because we are splitting the middle term, which now gives us 5v squared minus 30v minus 2v plus 12. Okay? And you're like, well, I still don't see the point. Why are we going through all this these steps here just to get more terms to factor? Well, here's where it pays off. It pays off because I am going to only worry about factoring common terms out of 2 terms at a time. Okay? So I'll look at that first set, and then we'll look at that second set in a second here. So first question, what does 5v squared and negative 30v have in common between them two? Yep, a factor of 5 and a variable v. There's 1 power of v in both. Okay, pull that out, and it leaves behind a v minus 6. Let's play that same game now with this second set of 2 terms. What do those have in common? In fact, I'm going to pull a negative 2 while I'm at it. If we pull a negative 2, it leaves a v. And if you divide 12 by negative 2, it leaves a negative 6. You might be like, well, how would I know to pull the negative? If that first one's negative, just pull the negative with it. It almost always works out that way. And if it doesn't, you can go back and put the negative in. But look, I now have the v minus 6 as a common piece. Now I've got a big term here, product term here, and another big product term here. But out of those two, they share a v minus 6, don't they? So that is my common term. And look what's left behind. I'm going to change colors one more time. Purple. There's a 5v and a minus 2. So that's my second binomial. So if you multiply this out, you will get the original standard form that we had up here. Okay? Now I could finish solving for v by just using the zero multiply rule. That means take each factor, set it equal to the 0 here. This is a check mark, not a v. And see what value of v would make that 0. Well, it's pretty basic math at this point. Add the 6 over and you get v equals 6. Okay, let's do that again with the second factor. 5v minus 2, what would make that equal to 0? Because the principle here is, if I have two things that multiply to be 0, either the first thing's 0, the second thing's 0, or they're both 0. That's kind of what I'm talking about when we get to this point right here. So I just set both factors equal to 0 separately and solve. Well, add the 2 over. So we get 5v equals 2. Divide off the 5. Oops. I just made a little boo-boo there. No, I don't want to. Yeah, it should be 2/5. So 6 and 2/5 is your solutions.